After 4 years of grueling fighting in Ukraine, the days of conventional warfare are long gone. Artillery duels and tank maneuvers have run their course. But what has emerged is perhaps more terrifying. Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's president, recently said drones were responsible for 80% of the 1,000 casualties Russia sustains on a daily basis. They have turned the front lines of Ukraine into fast-expanding kill zones that stretch for miles, where being caught in the open amounts to a death sentence for a soldier. An Australian volunteer infantryman for Ukraine's 3rd Army Corps, who goes by the call sign Chaplain, told The Telegraph that it was almost impossible to move near the front line without hearing first-person view, FPV drones, or the cry of a banshee, as he described the haunting sound. "It's very hard to move without hearing a drone, very, very hard," he said. Cheap off-the-shelf drones proved pivotal in some of the war's early, most decisive battles, such as halting a 40-mile-long convoy of tanks and troops barreling through Kyiv in 2022. FPV drones have evolved in the years since. They are used to drop heavy munitions or crash directly into their targets. Some have AI targeting capabilities or are made to be unjammable with spools of fiber optic cables that can stretch over 20 miles. Kyiv and Moscow remain in an arms race to produce the next technological leap that will give their drones the edge over those of the enemy. Improved battery life, software capabilities, and carrying capacity can mean the difference between victory or defeat. During the war's early phase, Ukraine's Rozvidka unit, which started out as a team of volunteer IT specialists and hobbyists, came to the fore. The unit has been credited with helping to halt the convoy bearing down on Kyiv and thwarting the Russian attempt to capture Hostomel Airport, just northwest of the capital. It also used its unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, to spot and direct artillery fire towards 200 Russian paratroopers at the airport, during what was perhaps the most pivotal battle for Kyiv's survival. And its men used drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras to drop bombs weighing 1.5 kilograms on the convoy. In the spring counteroffensive of 2022, similar tactics started to emerge on the battlefield. Agile drones designed for racing and controlled by pilots wearing virtual reality goggles were transformed into potent, highly maneuverable guided missiles. By the summer of 2023, as Ukraine geared up to launch a major counteroffensive in the south, it was losing around 10,000 drones a month, including surveillance UAVs and single-use kamikaze munitions, according to the Royal United Services Institute, RUSI think tank. With Western generals still fixated on traditional maneuver warfare, Ukrainian commanders knew the tide was turning on how future conflicts would pan out. FPV strikes were quickly found to be effective against both infantry and armored targets, as well as providing real-time aerial video feeds to troops on the ground. Drones, which cost less than 1,000 pounds, were credited with taking out Russian tanks, which were sometimes worth millions. In the same year, Ukraine's armed forces formed UAV assault groups, finally institutionalizing the use of drones. But after more than a year of being battered by Ukrainian drones, Russia started to catch up. In 5 months, Ukraine had only managed to retake just over 10 miles of territory. General Valery Zaluzhny, the former commander of Ukraine's armed forces, admitted to The Economist that both sides had, quote, reached the level of technology that puts us into a stalemate. Some of the world's most sophisticated systems, which Western allies had donated to Ukraine, were suddenly vulnerable to a new threat. In September 2023, footage shared by Russian sources appeared to show a UAV destroying a Challenger 2 tank, which Britain had donated to Kyiv. It wasn't until 2024 that Ukraine ramped up its drone production. More than 2 million UAVs were produced domestically that year, according to a report published at the time by Georgetown University's Security Studies Review. With hundreds of Ukrainian firms pumping out drones, modifications began to creep in. The main change was the size of the quadcopter chassis, its framework designed to bear certain weights, scaling up from an average 7-inch frame in 2022 to 12 inches 2 years later. This enabled the drones to carry larger batteries to increase flight time and, crucially, larger explosive payloads to target their enemies. Both sides started experimenting with mothership UAVs, which would carry several smaller kamikaze drones closer to the target to conserve battery life and extend range. But the most significant developments came in the electronic aspect of warfare, with both sides fighting it out to jam radio frequencies used by enemy drone operators. Between 60 and 80% of Ukraine's drones failed to reach their targets, and they often struggled against Russian armored vehicles, Ruzi said in a report last year. Despite this apparent low success rate, the report added that between 60 and 70% of Russian equipment losses were attributed to drone strikes. The jostle over radio frequencies led to the introduction of drone technologies that were married up with artificial intelligence, leading to the creation of unjammable killer robots. Specially programmed chips were fitted to standard UAVs that could independently find a target should the connection with its pilot be disrupted. For example, the Soccer Scout drone, carrying a 3 kilograms warhead, was designed to hover over the battlefield, sifting through various targets before automatically locking on. The technology had originally been designed to sort and classify fruits. Another invention was the fiber optic drone, which uses hard wiring to keep the UAVs connected to their pilots, also making them immune to radio jammers. First produced by Ukraine, the method is increasingly favored by Russia, which has been able to scale production more efficiently with cables reaching almost 25 miles. Frontline towns have been smothered by webs of translucent fiber optic cabling after long-range battles involving the drones. Until we can figure out how to jam fiber optic drones, we're just going to keep taking hits, Chaplin said. There is a drone for almost every task on the battlefield now. Some sleep beside roads, only waking to strike incoming vehicles. Others are capable of dropping Soviet-era TM-62 anti-tank mines on key logistical routes. The best FPVs can fly at speeds of over 60 miles per hour, leaving soldiers unable to outrun them. Drivers of pickup trucks are forced to go in excess of 90 miles per hour to allow themselves enough time to slow down and take corners, according to Chaplin. He said, "You can't move at night at all because of thermal drones, and the thermals Russia have are insane. The best time to move is between dusk and dawn because the temperature is different. The sun goes down, and the ground is still hot, but it's cooling, so it messes with their cameras. They're typically the best time to do troop movements and supply missions." Facing enemy drones has become just as much a psychological burden as a physical threat to those serving on the front lines. Artillery fire is deadly but predictable. FPV drones are incredibly nimble and capable of weaving in and out of trees or buildings, making nowhere safe. Grim compilation videos showing Ukrainian drones picking off dozens of Russian soldiers one by one are routinely shared online. Drones have allowed Kyiv's outnumbered forces to level the playing field, inflicting mass casualties on Russia as Vladimir Putin continues to send thousands of soldiers to their deaths for meager battlefield gains. Chaplin said, "The biggest thing is just not to get seen in the first place, but if they do spot you, they will hunt you. I was moving a wounded friend. It took us 6 hours, crawling and hiding and sitting under trees to get about 800 meters. Sometimes, thick snow or fog allows soldiers to move undetected because the drones can't operate in poor conditions. But like Chaplin, many crawl for days to avoid being spotted while being rotated out of positions." Fishing nets have been improvised to create shields over roads leading in and out of the front lines. Pickup trucks, tanks, and other armored vehicles have had heavy metal cages welded to their chassis to add additional protection from drones. Some brigades operate robot-like ground drones, but their speeds are no match for the FPVs in the sky. Despite the proliferation of drones seen in Ukraine, the effectiveness of the flying machines is yet to be ingrained in NATO's tactics.